With the approach of the Holy Yom Tov of Pesach, I would like to present to you a vital message about a forgotten obligation, which pertains to each and every one of us. This is a shmuz adapted from Moran Hagoyin Reb Henoch Leibowitz, Zechet Tzaddik Livrocha. It says in Parshas Boy, one of the Parshas about Yetzias Mitzrayim, it says that Rebbeinu Shel Olam came and spoke to Moshe to warn Paro about the oncoming Makkah, the plague of Arbe, of locusts, and how destructive it will be. After Moshe Rabbeinu went to Parai and gave this warning, it says in the Torah, Vayifen vayetze me'im Parai. He turned away, Moshe Rabbeinu finished, he turned away and he went out from Parai. Apparently he went out on his own accord. The servants of Parai became frightened. Ad Mosayi is Elona Lamokesh, how long? Haterem Teda ki Avda Mitzrayim. Parai, don't you know that Mitzrayim, that Egypt is going to be destroyed? Let's call back Moshe and Aaron and renegotiate. And Paro did exactly that. The next pasuk says that they appointed a messenger, the way Rashi learns in pasuk 8, Vayushav es Moshe v'es Aaron. They brought back Moshe and Aaron. Rashi says Ayidei Shaliach. They sent a messenger to invite Moshe and Aaron to return to renegotiate. In other words, they sent a messenger to come and to bring back Moshe and Aaron, and the messenger escorted even the Heshivum el Parai, who brought them back again. Rashi says he brought them back to Parai. So they were invited royally by a messenger, and they were even escorted by this messenger to come to Parai. After the negotiations stalemated and nothing happened, it says in the Torah, Vayagoresh osam me'es pnei Parai, pasuk 11 in Parshas Boy. They were driven out from Parai. The Rivo, a Talmud of Rashi, a Rishon, explains that they were driven out from Parai because they were waiting. They wouldn't leave on their own because it would not be derech eretz to leave on their own. Moshe and Aaron couldn't leave on their own. It wouldn't be menschlichkeit, it wouldn't be derech eretz. After receiving a royal invitation and being escorted to Parai's residence, it would have been not derech eretz for them to leave on their own. So therefore, they couldn't leave on their own. The first time around, Moshe and Aaron came to Parai on their own accord, and they left when they finished giving the warning to Parai that Hashem wanted. But after the second negotiations, after they were brought by escort and they were given a royal invitation, now to just walk out on their own would be a lack of derech eretz, lack of menschlichkeit, and they couldn't go out on their own. So they had to tarry. They had to wait around until Parai would give them permission to leave, and this was not forthcoming. So they were driven out. They had to be driven out from Parai. That's the way the Rivah seems to understand these psukim. And the question is, one does not have to be a rocket scientist to understand that if Moshe Rabbeinu is waiting to be driven out, the consequences of being thrown out and driven out from Parai, the consequences would be a tremendous disgrace to Parai. It would be a chil Hashem, and it would be an embarrassment and a humiliation to Moshe Rabbeinu. Surely Moshe Rabbeinu could foresee that if he and Aaron wait to be thrown out, to be driven out, that would be a terrible embarrassment. That would be a terrible humiliation, not only for Moshe Rabbeinu himself, for his own dignity, but even it would be a chil Hashem for Hashem's representatives to be thrown out and to be driven out from Parai. So the question is, if that is so, why did Moshe Rabbeinu wait to be driven out from Parai? Why didn't he rather breach the derech eretz? Because the reason he wouldn't leave on his own, Moshe Rabbeinu and Aaron, why they wouldn't leave on their own, was because since they were invited royally, they just couldn't walk out on Parai. They had to wait till Parai would give them permission, which wasn't forthcoming. So therefore, Moshe Rabbeinu was pondering to himself, what do I do? What's the right thing to do? Should I keep to the derech eretz and just wait? But I'll be driven out. It will be a chil Hashem. It'll be a chil Hashem for my kavod, me, Moshe Rabbeinu and Aaron, and for HaKadosh Baruch Hu's humiliation and chil Hashem. So to go out, to go out before I get permission from Parai, they couldn't do. So what do we do? So we have to wait around till we'll be thrown out. But we'll be thrown out, will be a bigger chil Hashem, that the representatives of HaKadosh Baruch Hu will be driven out by Parai. So what do I do? What do we do? Do we stay by Parai until he throws us out? Which means, do we stay by Parai so that there shouldn't be a chil Hashem? To walk out and breach the derech eretz? Or should we wait to be thrown out? And if we wait to be thrown out, it'll be a bigger chil Hashem. So what do we do? So Moshe Rabbeinu paskined, Moshe and Aaron paskined, that it's better to wait and be driven out. That means that the chil Hashem of being driven out by Parai is less than walking out and breaching the derech eretz of leaving without permission. Can we see this fascinating thing that as much as being driven out by Parai, our first thought was there's nothing worse than that. There's no Chil Hashem that's greater than that. But apparently Moshe Rabbeinu paskined differently. He paskined that I'd rather be thrown out by Parai, and even if that will be a Chil Hashem, I'd rather be thrown out. It's less of a Chil Hashem than for a representative of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to walk out after being royally invited, to walk out without permission. This would be a bigger breach in there, a bigger Chil Hashem than being thrown out by Parai. That seems to be that way because that's what Moshe Rabbeinu paskined. He waited, according to the Rivah, he waited to be thrown out by Parai, to be driven out by Parai, because it would be a Chil Hashem to leave without permission after he was royally invited. We see here how fascinating it means to be a Baal Derech Eretz. The forgotten obligation that we were talking about is the fact that we have to be a mensch. We have to behave with Derech Eretz. If Moshe Rabbeinu was invited royally, and even with an escort, if he was invited royally to come to Parai, he cannot leave until he gets permission from Parai, and this was not forthcoming. May we understand from here the tremendous importance. Some people might think that being polite and being courteous and being invited royally, you could walk out on your own. It's not so important. It's not as important as being driven out. That Chil Hashem, it's not as important. But we could see here how very, very important it is. The basic obligation is we must be mentioned, we must do what's right. The Eibishter should help us, we should be Zeicha, to develop our Midos Tovos, to develop our Midos Tovos, to always be polite and courteous, especially a Ben Torah who can be understood to be a representative of Hashem, how much we have to go out of our way and work on our midos to be mentioned and to be Balei Derech Eretz, and in that chus will be Zeicha to bring the Korban Pesach in the Beis Hamikdash, the new Beis Hamikdash, and we should be Zeicha, Amen v'Amen, Amen v'Amen.